What's up, and welcome to another episode of Winged Octopus. This is Tyler here alongside Greg. Tess can't join us tonight, but Greg, how you doing tonight?
I'm not too bad. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. You know, the weather really sucks here, but at least there's no snow on the ground, and I had a day off from work, so I mean that's always a good thing.
It's starting to get warmer. I mean, it got up to like 27 today.
Oh, 27. That's so warm.
Because the other day it was like 14. So
It was in the negatives the other day here. It was unbelievable.
Winter has not been nice, except for that
No.
155-degree day. That was good.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we had the one little hot streak where we had like 3 days, and now the ponds are frozen again beyond belief. So it is what it is.
Better hockey weather.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm waiting for you to say something.
We can cut this out anyways. So we're just going to give a shout out to our sponsor, or Greg is going to give out a shout out to our sponsors here. So Greg, go ahead.
Yeah, our sponsor is Howie's Hockey Tape. If you've been listening to the podcast, you know that Howie's is your place to go for your hockey supplies. Howie's, they service the NHL, the AHL, the Red Wings use Howie's. They've got tape, they've got pucks. Anything you need for hockey, Howie's has. Visit howieshockeytape.ca for Canada and .com for the United States. If you use the promo code WINGEDO, you will save 10% off your order. And everyone loves saving money. So visit Howie's today.
Absolutely. They have some of the best tape, and the wax is second to none. And as you guys see, they keep posting stuff of when Bertuzzi and when Turgeon got called up the other day, that they saw, I think there were soakers on the skates or something like that, and they quote tweeted it and said, we see Howie's soakers on the skates. So I mean, they have everything from soakers to pucks to you name it, they have it. So check them out.
So today we're going to talk a little bit about trade deadline. The trade deadline is coming up. That date is February 26th, 2018. So the Red Wings, we think, are going to be a seller at the deadline. They are out of their playoff hopes for the foreseeable future, unless they have some crazy turnaround and everyone else is garbage. They're pretty far out of a wild card. They're very far out of third place. But I think we will start with the obvious trade piece that the Wings have, whose value has only gone higher as of late, and that is one Mike Green. What do you think of Mr. Green?
Yeah, I mean, Green has been the best defenseman on the team. I mean, and that's not saying much because the defense is very poor, and they give up a lot of goals usually. And it usually ends up because they end up losing by a goal or two, and usually the defense is the problem. However, he contributes offensively, and that in this new NHL where goals are the thing to do. You need to score a lot to be successful, or maybe not score a lot to be successful, but any goal scoring you get from the back end, it benefits your team tremendously. I mean, look at Nashville. They made it all the way to the Stanley Cup final last year, and they have 2 or 3 good defensemen that score goals there. Green would be a tremendous get for any team that ends up getting him. I mean, he's been really good. He's a puck mover. He's really the only one that they have besides Jensen, and Jensen doesn't see a lot of minutes. So I don't know what they end up fetching for him. I don't know if it's a second-round pick. I mean, a lot of people were saying first-round pick early this season. I don't think they're getting a first-round pick for a guy that's very, he's not very great defensively, but I think that they can get probably a second-round pick or maybe 2/3 or, something around there. I don't think they're getting a first-round pick, though. What about you?
I think they could get a second, an early second, maybe. They could get a first. I'm just wondering who would be giving up their first. If they got a first, he's going somewhere like Toronto. Toronto's probably going to have a pretty deep playoff run. He could go somewhere like Washington, who's going to be in the playoffs.
A reunion for Green in Washington. How about that 2010 season that he had? That he had, 25 goals, 26 goals or something like that? and 18 of which were on the power play, I believe.
2008 season, 2008-9, he had 31 goals.
That's what it was. That's exactly what it was. You're right.
Insane. Yeah. But this year he's got 5 goals and 20 assists, 25 points in 44 games. He is on pace for probably around 50 points, which will be his first 50-point season in a while. Yeah. He hasn't had a 50-point season since 2009, 2010. He got close in 14-15 with 45. So Mike Green, with the way he's been playing, he's been named to the All-Star game. I think he could get a first-round pick for him, but if you're getting a first-round pick for him, that might be all you get. You're not getting a prospect or anything like that. I think you could get a second and a decent prospect from a club like Toronto, who's overflowing with prospects.
I just don't think Toronto's ready to give up a first-round pick. I mean, they with the new ownership and the new management there in Toronto, they just seem very, very, very adamant that they're not going to give up a first-round pick, and they probably shouldn't. I mean, I think 2 seconds or maybe a second and a prospect, or I don't know. I personally don't think he's going in the division. I think if he's going anywhere, I would have said Edmonton before the season. But now I would say, if I had to guess, Vegas. If I had to guess one place, Vegas would be a perfect fit for him, I think.
Yeah, Vegas is an interesting destination. The other one that caught some people's eyes too was Pittsburgh, because Letang has not been great. But Mike Green, I think if you were to trade him to somewhere like Toronto, or if you were to trade him back to Washington, I think you could get a second-round pick and a good prospect. I haven't checked Washington's pipeline lately, but Toronto has plenty of them, and they could give one up. So,
yeah, Washington is an interesting story because, I mean, we know last year that, they went out to get Kevin Shattenkirk with that was a piece that they thought was going to put them over the top. And unfortunately for them, it didn't work out for them. And, and to make matters worse, he ends up signing with the Rangers, although he hasn't been great this year. The Caps are missing that next piece. I don't know if Mike Green's that piece. However, I mean, he's been there. He's played with Ovechkin. He's played with Backstrom. He's played with all those guys.
Yep.
So, I mean, maybe a reunion wouldn't be the worst thing for them. I think a dark horse place that he could end up is Boston.
Again, it's in our division. I mean, Boston's bouncing in and out of wild card in third place, I believe.
Well, Boston's in second place, and actually Boston's only 7 points back of the Tampa Bay Lightning now, and they have points in 14 straight games now, 13 straight games.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, all we know is Mike Green's gonna be gone. He's probably gonna get us just a first round or a second round in a prospect. Or a second round in a mid round, but I don't think people are online like, yeah, first round pick and a really high prospect, and that's never going to happen. He's too old for that. He's a rental player. You'll be lucky if you get a first. You'll be making out real good if you get a second and a prospect. But we're going to move on to our second possible trade bait, which would be one of either Mrazek or Howard or both.
Ooh. Both.
I've heard, yeah. So that was one of the things I heard the other day was, why don't we just trade both of them? I mean, we're not trying to win right now. We're not making it in. You could get a team's serviceable backup goalie. I mean, or you could bring up Coro and have him suffer through next season. But we've got really good goalies in the pipeline. We've got some really promising goalies in the pipeline. It all depends on how fast they develop.
Yeah, the Petroselli kid is interesting to me. The kid that plays at Merrimack that we just took, I believe, in the 3rd or 4th round. He's 6'7", I believe. Don't quote me on that, but he's huge. And that kid's interesting to me because of the size. But he could end up being a Jared Coro. So I mean, who knows? Basically, to answer your question there. I personally would move Jimmy Howard, not because I don't like Jimmy Howard, because I've said before that I'm not into the whole goalie debate. I want to see the team win, and I want to see whoever is in the net that time or that game win. Right now, if I had to trade one, it would be Howard. If I could trade both, I would. But I better be getting the team's backup goalie, and that backup goalie better be similar to, Antti Ranta or like one of those kind of guys. And I know that he's not available.
Someone with a name.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But what would you get back for a guy like Jimmy Howard? Just cap relief and maybe a prospect and maybe a pick? Not all of those, but cap relief and a pick, or cap relief and a prospect? I mean, is that worth
cap relief and a third? You get cap relief and a third.
Yeah, but here's the other thing, too. And if you believe all the rumors, possibly with Ken Holland, which we'll get into later on here in the show, is Ken Holland even going to be around for the rebuild? So does he even give a rat's ass what happens here? And the other thing is, like, do you trust him to make these moves and to get as much as he can for these guys?
Yeah. Petrozelli is interesting. Petrozelli is like Quinnipiac.
Yes.
And
Quinnipiac, not Merrimack. I'm sorry.
And they say, and a lot of people are comparing him to Coro just because he's huge. But if you watched him in any of the training camp stuff, he's agile. He can move. He has the athletic ability. The only, like, Coro is okay as a backup, but that's all he is a backup. He's an AHL goalie, or he's a backup goalie. Howard's the more interesting one to trade simply because he's older. Mrazek, you're getting, I mean, he posted a shutout the other night, but 2 games before, you leave him 5 goals. So I could, if we get rid of both of them, get rid of both of them. You get rid of cap space. You'll get a couple picks. For Mrazek, you might get a pick and a prospect. But Howard, you're probably just getting a pick in the cap relief at that point.
Yeah, and I think the cap relief is fine because, I mean, you do know the situation that the Red Wings are in, and guys that they have to re-sign like Larkin, and they have to re-sign Athanasiou if they, intend on keeping him, and Mantha as well, and Ferk is a restricted free agent after this year. So, yes, cap relief, but you're also going to have to put money in. And the other thing is, do you trust Ken Holland going forward with signing guys like Larkin and Mantha and Athanasiou and guys like that? So I guess that'll remain to be seen. And then the other thing is, if you're trading Mrazek, who's going to be your goalie? And when are you going to win again? Because fans are going to start to get restless. Even though that, you missed the playoffs last year, you're probably going to miss the playoffs this year. So where is the light at the end of the tunnel? And people are going to start wondering where that is. Now, if you were to just keep Mrazek and trade Howard, that's a piece you could probably start to build around and start building the defense, and then, so.
Yeah, if Mrazek can prove that he can be consistent.
Yeah, that's another thing. And then the other thing is, too, I mean, do you believe in Mrazek, or do you believe in the whole goalie needs to be your best player out there? Because, I mean, Corey Crawford is okay and won 3 Stanley Cups because of the team in front of him. So
I think I think that wraps them up. I mean, there's not a lot of talk anymore. There was talk initially about Mrazek in Edmonton, but all the goalie talk has cooled down. So the next interesting piece, I think, that the Wings could move would be Tatar. I went back and forth for a while between Tatar and Nyquist. Nyquist just seems to have more playmaking upside, a little better skater. Tatar, I mean, he'll score for a couple games and then he'll go cold for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and that's always been his problem. He's a streaky scorer, but he can score. He's proved that he can score. So I think if you put him on another team, and I don't know if there's attitude conflict issues or something with Tatar, but he doesn't give a lot of interviews anymore. He's not. I mean, a lot of days on the ice, he doesn't look like he's there.
Yeah, Tatar feels to me that he probably should have went in the summertime, and they should have got what they could for his rights, and the other team could have negotiated with him. Now you're stuck with him. You're stuck with a bad contract, and you're also stuck with somebody that is not putting in all the effort that he probably should. If you look at it before, Tatar was this happy-go-lucky person. He's laughing around. He's having a good time in warm-ups. You don't see that anymore. And I think part of the reason is because of what Ken Holland did this summer, or what his camp did this summer. I mean, he's got 19 points in 44 games. That's good for a guy that you're paying a lot less than what you're paying Tatar. What are you paying Tatar right now? That's 5.5, isn't it? Or something like that? Greg? Hello?
Sorry, I was muted.
Oh.
Tatar right now 5.3 until he's a free agent 2021. But yeah, he's 5.3 million per year right now.
Yeah, I would have moved on from him in the summertime, and now you're seeing the repercussions of a guy that doesn't want to be here, and he's not as good as we all thought he was to begin with, and he's too small. And I mean, that's where I'll end with that. I mean, he does have 11 goals, but when was the last time he scored a goal? I couldn't even tell you the last time he scored a goal.
Yeah, so, he's got a pretty favorable salary to move to. In 2020, his last year of his deal, he's only making 4.2 million. So his salary goes down. They probably signed him knowing that they were probably going to have to move him, and that makes his contract easier to move because it dips off at the end. Tatar, I think you could probably get a second or a third, but I think you're just getting a pick at that point.
Yeah, I would be.
You could probably get a third. You could probably get a third and a low prospect, or just a second round pick. If Brendan Smith got a second round pick, I think Tatar can get a second round pick.
In mind with the contract though as well. I mean, it is 5.3. I mean, so that's no easy pill to swallow for a team, but it's not high like a Justin Abdelkader. There's still going to be some production there from Tatar on another team. Yeah.
And the last one that I thought was interesting, and I'm only going to bring this up because of something someone mentioned. I went to the Anthony Mantha signing yesterday, and I was in line, and there were some kids behind me that I was talking to, and they apparently are moderators of a Red Wings forum. And at the beginning of the year, they listed their bobblehead night promotions.
Okay.
And one of those was Athanasiou. And since then, they had looked, and there is no more Athanasiou bobblehead night.
Interesting.
So that could mean a couple of things. That could mean that they don't intend on keeping Athanasiou, and they might trade him. Or that, I mean, it was just too hard to sculpt his manly face into a bobblehead. So, I mean, it's interesting. It could just be completely coincidental. But Athanasiou, with how good he is, how explosive he is, I would love before the season started, I told him he could kick rocks. But he came in, he's proving that he's worth his contract that they gave him. The kid's fast, he's got hands. I'd love for them to build around him, Larkin and Mantha. But he's a piece, he's a high value piece, I believe, that they could move.
Yeah, I just don't know what you're getting. I mean, there's attitude problems. I mean, and it's not even just with the Red Wings. There was attitude problems when he played with London, and he and Dale Hunter really didn't get along. Teams are going to see that. It's like when you get a scholarship from a school, and now they see that you effed off, and now they pull that scholarship from you. It's very similar to that. Now, I'm not saying that that's the case, but I do think there is going to be some questioning of what is the attitude problem that Athanasiou has, and does his skill outweigh that as well?
Yeah, I don't think he gets with any other team though. With the not the contract, I don't think he goes with any other team because of his the person who runs his contract, his agent. His agent,
Darren Ferris, right?
Yeah, Darren Ferris has proven to be just incapable of negotiating good deals, and it's almost like he doesn't know what he's doing. So I don't think any team's going to want to work with Darren Ferris. I think Athanasiou sticks simply because his agent is bad. Plus he's been producing. Plus I feel like he likes playing with Larkin and Mantha. So
I think he likes Detroit actually as well. I think that last year he started to like it, and I think he might have soured a bit. And I think now he's starting to like playing in Detroit, because playing in Detroit isn't just this little thing. It's not like playing on Long Island or not even Long Island, but playing in a lesser market, Arizona or something like that.
Playing in Detroit for the Florida Panthers
market. It's an original 6 market. Now I get he grew up a Maple Leafs fan, cool, whatever. You're with the Red Wings now. And I think he's embracing that, and he's playing really well right now.
Yeah, and the only other one I'm going to skim over, I'm going to skim over two, actually.
What could you get for Athanasiou?
Athanasiou, right now, he's probably going to get you, for a team that really, really wants him, he'll probably get you a second and a prospect. I don't think anyone's given up a first-round pick for him.
Second and a prospect. I don't know if I'd do that right now.
Well, I don't think I would, but, it's Ken Holland making the negotiations, so.
Yeah, we'll see about that. Well, we will see about that.
The other ones I got are since he's not doing anything, Xavier Ouellet, see if someone will flip you a pick for him and dump his contract. He's riding the bench. He's not playing. He's not doing anything. Why bother? And then the one that I am almost certain is going to be moved within the next few weeks is David Booth, simply because when Glendening comes back, you have to waive someone, and because Tyler Bertuzzi, and I even asked everyone on Twitter, I'm like, there's no way you can let Bertuzzi go back to Grand Rapids when Glendening comes back. Yeah, he's outplayed Glendening. He's outplayed Glendening in every aspect of the game. And if you want to keep Glendening on the ice, you've got to get rid of someone. And I think they'll waive Booth. I don't think someone might actually pick him up this time because he looks decent on the ice. He doesn't look bad, and he's scored a couple goals. But maybe see if anyone will take him in a trade. But you're going to have to waive him when Glendening comes back after the All-Star break. So.
Well, I mean, that's interesting. Why not start to dangle guys like Frans Nielsen and, maybe have to eat some of that contract? Or even you're not going to move Abdelkader. We all know that. But wouldn't a guy like, I don't know, and I don't know, I have no idea if they would trade Kronwall or not, but wouldn't a guy like Kronwall want a chance at a Stanley Cup again? Or does he just like the legacy of playing for the Detroit Red Wings?
I don't think any team's going to take him.
If you ate some of the contract, I think it would be enticing.
They're not going to put him on the ice. No one's going to put him on the ice.
I happen to agree with you a little bit there, but, I mean, he is a veteran presence and a team that's looking for that. I mean,
some days I'm surprised he can walk to the ice.
I agree. The other guy that interests me, and he hasn't played that well. He hasn't played that bad when he's been out there, but the problem is keeping him out there. Darren Helm is another interesting person. I mean, San Jose was interested earlier this season. I think it was at the beginning.
They should have taken him. They should have taken him. Oh my God, that contract!
I would watch here.
That contract is atrocious.
Oh my God, there's 4 more years left on it too. I was looking at it earlier. That
$3.85 million until 2021, 22.
Give me a second. You don't think that Evgeny Svechnikov, even though I know he hasn't played that well down there, you don't think you could bring him up and he would actually, even Matt Pumple, you could bring Matt Pumple up and he would give you more than Darren Helm does.
Absolutely.
And it would, or maybe not more, but just as much as Darren Helm does, and it would cost half the price.
Not even half the price. I mean, Matt Pumple's contract is like nothing. Yeah, I mean, Darren Helm could easily, like I said the other day, I mean, you got our whole third and fourth line could easily be replaced by Griffins, and there'd be no difference, or the team would improve. Matt Pumple's only making $725,000 this year. And I guarantee that he'd do better than Helm. I guarantee he'd do better than Abdelkader. Look at Turgeon. Turgeon's up here, and he's doing great. He hasn't scored yet, but he's only been in 2 games. Turgeon. But he plays both ends of the ice. He's a big guy, and, I mean, he's not making much money either, but he's working his ass off.
I want to bring up one more thing before we move on to this final thing. I was reading an article this morning. I woke up early, looked at The Athletic, as I always do. And actually, it was late last night. And there was the top 50 prospects in the NHL plus the top 10 goalie prospects. Now, these are guys that have already been selected, so guys that are already in the system or still playing in junior hockey, but they were drafted. Not one Detroit Red Wing in the top 50, not one goalie in the top 10.
Yep, I read that too. Rasmussen was an honorable mention.
Yes.
But now, I think that was a Corey Pronman article, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yeah, I didn't remember the name, but I wanted to give him credit. The other thing to me is about that whole thing is you reached for guys like Cholowski and Rasmussen, and even if they do become good players, there's already guys on that list that are either playing in the NHL or very close to playing in the NHL, and they're on that top 50 list. And you passed on them. Shame on you. Timothy Liljegren was, I believe, 15th there, and the Red Wings took Rasmussen over him. You need defense, not centers.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing. And that's the other half of it is we need a new GM that can draft and make smart draft decisions.
Well, I think Dylan Larkin was a smart decision. I think Anthony Mantha was a smart decision. I think Svechnikov was a pretty good decision. Now I'd have to look back at that draft. But after that, Cholowski, I mean, he could be a good player.
Yeah.
But why reach? Why not just look at what people see?
Take the best player available.
Yeah, forget about, I mean, obviously you need defensemen, but you still haven't even taken defensemen. Cholowski? And then I know Cholowski's a defenseman, smooth skater, according to Ken Holland. But then Rasmussen, a 6 foot slow center. And now I have no idea. I did see him play in person in Boston in a preseason game. He looked pretty good.
He looks good.
But he also did not make Team Canada in the World Juniors. And that's supposed to be the best Canadian players. And if he's supposed to be that then why did he make that team? Oh,
he had to have surgery on his wrist.
Okay, so he's out then.
Yeah, he's out now.
I apologize. Yeah, I apologize. So, okay. But still, he should be in that top 50 if that was a guy that they reached and thought was a great player. And,
Yeah.
So.
Well, we'll see how that goes. But I actually think we are out of time.
You don't want to just touch on the Ken Holland stuff real quick?
I mean, I can. There's
just throw it out there.
There's a little bit of talk that Ken Holland might go to Vancouver to help rebuild their garbage organization into, I guess, a slightly less garbage organization. Because, I mean, you've seen what he's done with Detroit. You want him to go light your organization on fire. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, have fun with that. I mean, if I was Holland, I mean, he's got to be, what, in his 50, late 50s, early 60s? If 60s. I was Ken Holland, 60s, okay, even worse.
I think he's going to say, yeah.
If I was Ken Holland, with all due respect, you got to thank him for everything he did, and basically just say, "Hey, look, you have two options. Number one, you take it, a position higher in the organization. You have no say anymore, and you just have a nice desk and you report and you do a scouting or whatever, or you go to another organization, you have fun there, and you rebuild it or whatever you want to do there." Or you just retire, and that's it. I mean, I feel like I was reading an article today, and they said basically that there would be mixed feelings in Detroit if Ken Holland were to leave. Let me just say something. Red Wings fans are smart, for the most part. So obviously they'd thank him for the 4 cups or how many you want to credit him with, because I know that Jimmy D was the one that really built the organization.
Yeah.
But and then after that you throw a party on Woodward or down Woodward, and you basically say, "Thank God he's gone. He can't fuck it up anymore."
Yeah, I think
and at that point, then you just say, "Look, we have a direction now. We hire the right person, and hopefully that he can turn it around."
Yeah, I think the only two mixed feelings would be shock and happiness. I think those are the only two feelings that would be mixed together at that point. I mean, I could put up a poll right now saying, "Should we fire Ken Holland?" And every answer you'd get 100% yes. There's not going to be one no vote.
Yeah, I think that if they get rid of him, they're not going to get rid of him like they did with Dombrowski. I think they have a little bit more respect for him than they did with Dombrowski with the Tigers. So I think they're just going to let him run his contract out, and then they're going to rebuild it from there. Just like they're doing the hockey department, they're going to have to rebuild the entire organization.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, we need to go through in order to rebuild the team, you have to rebuild the management.
Look,
So
I was talking to someone that come into my hockey shop the other day, and he was probably about 70 years old, and he saw me wearing my Red Wings hat, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you guys are going through rough times," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know." And he goes, "Hey, head up, kid." He goes, "You guys were good for a long time. You got to see the good times." He goes, "You'll see the bad times, and then when the good times come again, you'll feel fortunate that you went through the bad times." And the other thing he said, as this is an obvious statement, but you can't be good forever, and you can't be bad forever either. But you certainly cannot be good forever. And the time has run out. The luck has run out. It's time to hit the reset button, and whatever that means. I don't know, whatever you want it to mean, I guess, right? So.
Yeah. I think hitting the reset button is a good way to put it, and it's a good way to end the show.
I agree. So that's gonna do it for this episode of Winged Octopus. Tess, we're sorry you couldn't make it. Hopefully you're having fun watching the kids and everything like that. Other than that, I mean, Greg, do you have anything else?
No. You can always follow me on Twitter at Bringing the Wing.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Tyler_Seely. You can follow the Winged Octopus on Twitter at Winged Octopus, and you can also follow us on Facebook, like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and we're trying to get the Snapchat going, as Matthew is going to be going to the 3 games out in California coming up here pretty soon. That's all I have. The Wings' next game is Saturday against the Carolina Hurricanes. I believe it's a 7 o'clock start, not a 7:30 start. Other than that, trade deadline's on the 28th?
26th?
26th, and we got the All-Star game coming up here pretty soon. And Mike Green, congratulations, is the only All-Star.
Yep.
That's all I have. Greg, I hope you have a good night.
You too.
And everybody else, have a good night. Stay classy, Hockey Town.